Welcome to 英語喉 Live.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
Hello, Mr. Nagasaki-no-ame. Welcome to Washington DC.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Kaz-san. Thank you very much for accepting my visit. I'm very happy to be here.
I'm glad to see you here. So today is March
7th?
2014. It's Thursday night.
Right.
So what brought you here? Let's start from there.
Well, actually, since about 3 years ago, I've been dealing with American customers in my business, and I make, I make trips to America once in every 2 months, if you average them out, and this is my first trip this year. I normally go to my customers based in Orlando, Florida, and Charlotte in North Carolina.
Okay. Can you face this way maybe to the microphone?
Okay,
so it's easier?
sorry.
You have done lots of international travels in the past, and you even lived abroad. Tell me a little bit more about your international experience.
Right. Actually, my first experience of living abroad, or actually first and only experience, was in Africa. I used to live in a country called Cape Verde, which is located 600 kilometers off the coast of Senegal, West Africa. I lived there for 1.5 years. I was involved in this joint venture company with the government of Cape Verde. At that time, I was around 27, 28, something like that, and I was just a liaison officer for my company. Actually, Cape Verde is not such an exciting place to live in. It's a pretty boring place, I would say. There's no stimulation whatsoever, both intellectually and entertainment-wise. The only thing they've got is a pretty beach, beautiful women, maybe.
You have to pretend like somebody from that country is listening to this one. So you have to say good things about...
Right,
yeah.
True. Like I said a little while ago, if you ask 100 people in Japan about Cape Verde, nobody knows about this country, although the government of Japan every year has shelled out some amounts of aid to the government of Cape Verde, but obviously is not well known among the average Japanese people. So that's my living experience in a foreign country. Other than that, I just visit places like Germany and England occasionally, France. I have one client in France, about 3 hours from Paris. I used to make lots of travels to Asian countries when I was in the purchasing department. Now I'm in the sales department. But when I was in the purchasing department, I visit countries like Korea, China, Thailand, Indonesia. I enjoyed those countries very much.
Would it be okay to ask, because you told me a little bit about it earlier, the difference between purchasing and what's the other one?
Sales.
Selling. I mean, both of them involve going abroad and negotiating.
Yeah.
With foreign customers. But what's the difference?
What difference is?
To the extent possible you can describe.
Purchasing department, you do purchase materials, parts to build your product, right? And when the Japanese yen sharply appreciated about, how long ago was that? I don't even remember how long ago was that, but I guess about some 10 years ago, like that. Yen was as low as 78 to the dollar. We did a lot of purchasing from abroad, and I was in the international purchasing team. So that's purchasing. We subcontracted the manufacturing of the parts to a supplier like in Korea, China. The hard part is, of course, the quality of the products. In those days, especially, was so bad that we have to repair what we buy after they are delivered to our factory. So that's the hard part. And normally you cannot really, we call the term back charge. We cannot back charge it to the supplier. We have to pay for that.
Yeah.
But anyways, so now I'm in the sales department. I make the sales pitch to our customers overseas for the products. I'm involved in sales of gas turbine parts to my clients based in the U.S. I hope it's good enough.
If somebody of high school age or college age who are listening to you and they are looking for a job in this kind of international corporation or company, I mean that involves international travel and business, what would you say to them?
I certainly wouldn't recommend my company or my job. Like I said, I could bore you to tears with stories about my job. It's, doing international travels, meeting customers overseas may sound fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think the substance is not just traveling and using English, but the job itself, obviously, right? So I would hope, I would certainly hope Japanese young people would venture out of the country and get involved in activities interacting with foreigners. But I think they should choose careers of their interest, if that's possible. Very often, young people don't know what to do with their lives. I have two kids, my sons. They're in high school, but they don't know what to do with their lives. They don't know where their strength lies. So I understand it's very difficult, but if possible, they have to find where their interest lies, where their strength lies, and go for it, and pursue their careers along that lines.
But the reason why you are doing this job is because you studied English really intensively, and your English was pretty good when you got the job, I guess.
And I had to come back to Nagasaki and find employment in Nagasaki.
Okay. I want to go back to your history of how you started becoming interested in studying of English and how you studied it and to master to the level where you speak now. I think many people are interested in how you did it, and if you have any advice for them.
Advice? I did almost all kinds of things. I just point out several of them that really stick in my memory. One of them is when I was in university, I was living in Tokyo. And in those days, there were several very good rerun theaters. I think, if I remember correctly, I was able to see 3 movies for 400 yen or 500 yen, very cheap. I go into the theater in the morning, and I see 3 movies with a flashlight and memo pad to take down the expressions, whatever expressions I can listen, I can understand. I did things like that when I was in the universities. Also, when I was in Tokyo, I did listen to a lot of FEN, Far East Network. These days, I think it's called somewhat differently, but that helped me a great deal. And also, I did a lot of reading of magazines like Time and Newsweek when I was in college. Things like that. One another thing I would like to mention is the fact that I'm an introvert. And even though I do realize that it's very important to learn English through interaction, through communicating with native speakers, that's very important. But it doesn't work for me because even in Japanese, I don't find it comfortable talking with strangers very long or very often. So naturally, my approach is more like, input oriented. I listen, I read, and I spoke English not very often.
But you must have had some conversation practice with foreign people when you were in college, right?
Not in a big way. I don't think so.
Okay. How quickly did you get to be fluent?
I'm not fluent. I don't think I'm fluent.
Or to this level right now, the current level, how quickly did you reach this level?
That's a good question, but that's a very difficult question to answer. I did a lot of, pattern practice. Maybe you have an objection to that approach, but I did a lot of pattern practice. And I think that helped me to a certain extent.
It sounds like a good kind of practice to practice to the patterns because it's like a drill, isn't it?
Yeah. Especially when you're at the beginning stage, I think it is. At least from my experience, I think it is a must.
As opposed to just memorizing things randomly, but you kind of try to expose yourself to the patterns of English, such as how to use "I'm going to,"
right?
"I'm going to," "You're going to," kind of exercises based on very commonly used patterns in English. That must be a very good way to learn English.
So I like to stress the fact that, especially to my fellow introverts in Japan, you don't necessarily push yourself to, speak with the foreigners, even though I think it's the best way. But for some people like me, it doesn't work. So, there are ways around it.
Do you have any observation or comments on recent phenomena of how people use TOEIC preparation to study English?
Right. I'm not knocking it, but passing the tests like TOEIC or ACAN alone doesn't get you very far. It goes only so far, especially when you put English to a practical use, like listening to the other party and understand what the other party is saying and putting together a deal with the foreigners. You need something more. So I think it's very important for anyone to not just prepare for the test, but you have to improve your overall skills of English. And in that very process of improving your English, you pass the test without really preparing for it. I think that's the key. You know what I mean?
Yes, I think I agree with you. Yeah.
Preparing for the test alone, and you might be able to get a very high score, but that doesn't necessarily translate into practical skill of English. And I've seen some examples where of people who have very high score of TOEIC or ACAN, but not necessarily communicate, not being able to communicate with the foreigners.
I guess some people really like to use the test to prepare to study, but maybe if they memorize some words and grammar points, they should probably try to use them, and in conversation or in writing, and there are ways to utilize your test prep, I think. So, did you do anything for? I mean, people say there are 4 skill areas: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Did you try to study specifically for each of these subdomains, or you just generally studied?
I didn't really consciously pursue those domains. I just did whatever I felt like, doing.
Okay.
I guess I was not that studious.
Did you listen to American music, which kind of motivated you to study
Oh,
English?
definitely.
Or what's
I think
the cultural influence that you have?
my first encounter with English was through American popular music. That's for sure. When I was in junior high school, people like Carpenters, Billy Joel, and Eagles, Aerosmith, and who else? Sheena Easton. They were enormously popular. These days, Japanese young people listen more to Japanese pop music. There's nothing wrong with that, but in my days it was different. Especially Karen Carpenter's pronunciation had a very strong appeal to me, and I really copied her pronunciation when I was in junior high school. So I think that was a very good start, gave me a very good head start.
Finally, tell me how you encountered Eigo Nodo and how it
That's a very
you.
good question. I think one day I was browsing in a bookstore in Nagasaki, and this Eigo Nodo book really jumped at me. And I picked it up, and I opened the book and browsed, kind of leafed through it, and I realized that there is something to this book. So I bought it immediately, and I learned a lot from it, definitely.
I still remember having received an email from you the first time. Probably this was about 5 years ago. So.
Oh, it's been 5 years.
And I think you sent me your sound file in which you read Eigo Nodo's passage.
Bento box passage.
And initially I had a suspicion that somebody's trying to tease me because your English sounded really, really good, like a native speaker's English. So I thought maybe somebody is trying to tease me to see how I react to it.
Right.
But eventually I learned that you are a real person, and
real person
whose intention was genuine. And Gina was really making comments such as, "This guy must be a Westerner."
With a touch of Australian accent.
With a touch of
like
Australian accent, which might have been some of your experience from Africa.
No, I don't think so. It has nothing to do with African accent. My partner on the side of Cape Verdean government was this ambassador to America, but he spoke with a very heavy African accent, so not anywhere close to Australian accent.
I think that when I speak, sometimes I feel nervous when I'm talking, and immediately I begin to notice that my voice becomes a little stiff, as opposed to resonant and soft. But I notice you are very, how can I say, consistent, and you're.
Well, thank you. I take it as a compliment.
Yes.
But I'm not. Even now, I'm conscious of myself being very nervous and tense.
I now remember about 12 months ago or so, I was trying to tell you that here's a new way of, it wasn't really new, but it was a new way of helping people by being conscious about intonation within the syllable.
Right.
And I told you about that, and you immediately told me that it makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's what you have been doing all along, I guess, to have
unconsciously,
really distinct, unconsciously you're doing this adding of melody within each syllable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes your English very stable and consistent. So how did you pick that up? Like now I am really consciously trying to add that to my syllables, but when I'm feeling nervous, oftentimes I begin to sound a little stiff and flat, so I really have to correct myself. But you have done this all along, and how did you pick that up? Is amazing.
Thank you, but I really don't know. I really don't know the answer to that question. I'm not even aware that I'm actually doing that. I think maybe it comes from my experience back in junior high school when I was really copying American pop songs and stuff.
Well, thank you today for this talk. I really enjoyed, and I hope you had a good time.
I hope this is worth recording.
I am sure that many people will find this conversation interesting. Yeah.
Was it interesting?
Yes. I'm sure Mr. Ueda listened to this because he's also impressed with your English. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.